Everybody hates the post-pandemic world, so today I want you to take your mind a decade back in 2013. When Vine was still a thing, the next-gen console war had just begun, the latest addition to the GTA series was made. Mr. Beast was not a billionaire, and using the word swag or swagger was still cool. Yeah, it was weird. Now, if you had turned your head towards the anime community, however, what you would have seen is... This was the year when Attack on Titan took over the world, and not just the anime community. You watch anime, you were watching Attack on Titan. You don't watch anime, you were still watching it as well. There was this kind of unspoken understanding between people that everyone is watching Attack on Titan. And obviously, there are many shows now that have reached these heights of popularity, like Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, or Chainsaw Man. But an anime gaining such unprecedented amount of attention from all around the globe was not common at all at that time. You very well can say that excluding the long-running shonen anime, Attack on Titan was the first ever anime to go mainstream in the world. And now coming back in 2023 after the final season, Core 3, Chapter 2, whatever that was, I know this joke is too overused and unfunny, but I just had to crack one, man. I'm sorry. Attack on Titan is now set to end on the 4th of November. It's still crazy to me that the series that defined this generation of anime will just randomly end on a Saturday morning. And to give a proper send-off to my favorite anime of all time, let's discuss the entire series from its very beginning to the end. So grab your popcorns and lay back, cause it's gonna be a long one. Or just put me in the background, I guess. The story revolves around three primary characters. Eren Yeager. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't say his name without sounding like a drunk 40-year-old. Eren Yeager! A young boy born in a small village trapped inside these giant walls who wants to attain his rightful freedom and will go to any extent to get this. Nothing is too bad or too much for him, which may not seem to be the case when you first see him in season 1, but his character development in the later seasons is genuinely some of the best character writing I've ever seen in any media. Mikasa, who's quiet for the most part, but when shit gets real, you bet she goes insane. Armin is the sensible, smart and kind one who obviously comes up with all the complex strategies to kill these giant ugly monsters who rip apart humans and eat them just for the pleasure they get from it. Yes, unlike many other shonen anime, the demons in AOT do not kill humans cause they just have to or will die if they don't eat us. They do this solely for their entertainment. Everyone living inside the walls is basically cut off from the outside world, but they do have their own resources to survive and grow in this hostile world. For example, their military uses omnidirectional mobility gear or ODM gear, which by the way is the coolest support gear I've ever seen. The swords, the green hood and even the gas tank have a very modern feel to them, but in a very classy way. You might ask, why am I drooling over a freaking toy? Well, firstly, that's because the show gives so much importance to these little things. The mid-cards in every episode carry so much info on very small and irrelevant stuff, which makes the world of AOT feel even more real. And these mid-cards can be as important as the origin of Titans or as skippable as what ingredients did Hanji use when she made stew in a jungle. You can skip them and you won't miss anything, but it's a good little element for the nerdy fans. Secondly, these ODM gears are the sole reason we have so many insane, jaw-dropping, mind-blowing, breathtaking, and straight-up nutting levels of beautiful Sakuga animation. I know I've simmed a little too much over 2 swords and a green screen, so now let's get into where it all began, where this tragic but at the same time beautiful story started. To you in 2000 years, the fall of Shiganshina. The first episode of Attack on Titan is one of the most captivating and thrilling first episodes in media. It opens with a colossal, monstrous figure rising up the gigantic walls, looking over a timid and fragile village. This format of opening your show with a big action scene which will take place in the future is not revolutionary by any means. In fact, it's kinda overused at this point, as it's an effective way to give us, the audience, something to look forward for. But what I really like about this format is that by showing what's to come to the viewers, you signal them a sense of finality. What I mean by the word finality here is that it shows that the author knows what he's doing. It's a promise almost, that give me your time and patience, and I promise that we will get into this big climactic scene and it will be worth it. However, not all the shows get this format right, especially the long-running shonen anime. A lot of the predecessors of Attack on Titan are infamous for milking/dragging out a plot point to its absolute limit. And within this process, the author often tends to forget the big climax scene he was building up to in the first place. It's like the author knows where he needs to go, but doesn't actually know how to get there. I know this explanation was not good enough, so let's try to understand this with another anime that uses this technique: Boruto. The Age of Shinobi has come to an end as we see two insanely powerful teenagers fighting it out in the remnants of the Hidden Leaf village. Keeping logical and power scaling issues aside, there is nothing inherently wrong with this scene. It goes back to the classic Naruto and Sasuke dynamic in a really cool way. Yet what I don't like about Boruto, except the whole thing, is that it takes a very huge leap into the future, which is obvious when we pull back to the present day and he's still just an academy student. We went from Boruto being the only shinobi left to him munching down a limited edition green chili hamburger. Done right, and this could still work. But it's such a large ask of an audience to stick around with you for a climax which is probably a decade off in the distance. Compare that to Attack on Titan's opening scene and you will see a much more reasonable ask. Attack on Titan opens with a climax which we will see happening in about 15 minutes. Is it grander or more epic than the Boruto opening? No, definitely not. Yet it is more than enough for us to trust the author. By delivering on a small promise, the viewers are much more likely to stick around with the author till the actual big event, which is geniusly also teased in the same episode. Now imagine if Attack on Titan opened with Eren and the survey cops digging around in the basement. It would simply be a lot. It is teasing us an event which will not come into fruition for 6 years. Instead, Hajime Isayama immediately made it clear that he is an author that knows what he is doing. The process of writing can be really overwhelming at times. You have so many ideas, climaxes, opening scenes, but zero ways of building from there. It's not surprising that most of the authors are lost in this process itself. But what can help is having an already completed written work. You have an ending in mind, a beginning, and a character who needs to go through the part to reach that ending. Now let's take this process and apply it to Attack on Titan. For 6 years, the story was building towards the basement reveal. From the very first episodes, this was already established, and it would continue to be revisited over and over again. This is the long-term goal. But to make this work, the author needed our trust. He wanted us to know that he's not gonna drag us along for years without any plan in mind. So the short-term goal was to deliver something at least moderately satisfying. Something that the audience experiences and thinks I'm on board for more. It makes us believe that with this author, you're not being strung along as the author haphazardly lays down railroad tracks while the train is still moving, but rather you're on a roller coaster, which has been carefully designed for the perfect emotional experience. Now that we have laid down how Hajime Isayama perfectly started Attack on Titan, let's also talk about the climax this opening teased in the first place. Cause just getting to the climax isn't enough. If the climax itself is a letdown, then what's the point? Many may say that the emotional moment of this episode was the death of Eren's mom, but I don't necessarily agree with this, cause any story can kill off the main character's parents. In fact, many stories do. As emotional Carla Yeager's death might have been, I don't really give any credit to Attack on Titan for pulling this off. But the moment that stood off to me as the highlight of this episode was this brief little moment we had with the character of Hannes. The decision of Hannes to confront the Titan trying to eat Carla Yeager was in any other series going to be the action-packed spectacle of this climax. But what Hajime Isayama does differently is have him chicken out. Remember, The humiliation of being caged like birds. These are the opening lines of the first episode and is the message the writer wants us to be thinking about as the episode ends. This message is entirely delivered us through the character of Hannes. The beauty of Hajime Isayama's writing in this first episode is that he makes us believe that the payoff to its tease will be an out-of-the-world invasion of massive titans, but actually it was always just the text. And through this text, Hajime Isayama is able to present a level of competency and skill which honestly very few authors are able to display this early on in the story. But there's always a but. After this episode, the entire first season is super generic. A lot of it is just introducing these hollow-ass characters with no emotional attachment, and some of them are just spawned in to be killed. Yo, the Levi squad is so cool, man. I love them. And I'm so excited to see how their characters progress in the future seasons. Okay, well, they are gone. We still have Marco. Let's see what he does. But this is not even my major gripe from the first season. What I mean is that a lot of appeal came from shallower elements that were there to maximize the impact but not really leave a long-lasting impression. From the crazy action to over-the-top shouting to Savano's soundtracks blasting your eardrums. There was always some kind of cheap shock element used to keep you watching. It kept force-feeding you something insane every episode, which led to us never getting a chance to look back and reflect on what you just witnessed. It was one bombastic action scene after another. Cheap thrills took priority over taking time to develop and make us actually give a fuck about these characters. Season 1 felt more like a roller coaster, and I'm not using this analogy in a positive way. It was a fun and high ride, but once that initial thrill wears off, you realize there was nothing that left an impact on you. And that's how it was for a long time. But then, you know how I mentioned at the beginning of the video that Attack on Titan's reception in 2013 was something completely new in the anime industry. The sheer amount of unrivaled hype and excitement within people was a gift to Hajime Isayama and Wit Studio. They could release literally anything AOT related and people would munch it down. But they couldn't do just that. I mean, I binged this shit, but I feel sorry for anyone who had to wait 4 years for 12 episodes. The reason for this long gap is supposedly because Isayama himself wanted to rework certain aspects of the story and characters in the anime he wasn't happy with. Also, not having this gap could lead to the anime releasing filler episodes to avoid catching up with the manga. So overall, yes, the gap was tedious and harsh, but in the long term, I guess it was for the better. Now that we have this out of the way, let's actually talk about Season 2. In my opinion, Season 2 is where most people will drop AOT, because it's just vastly different in tone and pacing. Season 1 was all about the fights, the action, and the action, whereas Season 2 took a very political and slow approach to the story. It was entirely dedicated to building up the plot by giving us more info about the world, but just enough for it to not make much sense. Cause if Isayama just spoon-fed the lore, then it would end up leaving no space for the viewers to invest and speculate on what is going to happen. It added a lot of these tiny little bits of flashbacks or some conversations that implied that there's something much larger going on in the grand scheme of things. To me, it's similar to the second season of Vinland Saga. If you enjoyed Season 1 for its fights or animation, then get ready to be disappointed. Cause Thorfinn, a merciless warrior, decides to play IRL Stardew Valley. But I personally preferred the season way more than Season 1. It took the initially simple plot and kept adding more and more layers to it, which is also the case with AOT. Unlike previously where it felt more like your generic battle shonen, now it has real tension in the air. Who is this titan? Who's in it? Who else can be a traitor? What does this random flashback mean? And the more and more answers you get, the more questions are raised with it. There were genuine emotions evoked in me than just hype and shock, which proved to me that the series is more than just fight and action. Also, a lot of the initially hollow characters got a fuck ton of screen time to properly develop and make them relevant to the story, which may also be the reason why some people dislike this season, because the primary trio and Daddy Levi were completely thrown out of the season. But if you're fully caught up to the anime, then you know how important this was, because I didn't even recognize most of the cast. Let's have a quick story time, okay? One of my friends is a huge AOT fan and he got me into the show, so obviously he was keen to make sure that no one spoils anything of the story for me. But we all have that one dumbass friend who, if you get a chance, he would shove an AK in their mouth and empty an entire loaded clip of that shit. But you know, jail and all is just too much to deal with. So this guy decided to spoil me that Ymir is actually the Jaw Titan. And the AOT fan was like, bro, what the hell? I can't believe you did this to him. You ruined the entire show. I hope you get isekai'd in some other world. And I was like, wait, who? Characters like Krista, Rainer, Berthold and Ymir took the spotlight for a good part of the season, and now I like all of them on various levels. Going over the entire season briefly, and put stress on the word briefly, cause Hanji bullies an innocent churchman, the scouts were waiting for some blood to spill, this guy gets destroyed by a talking monkey, Sasha, being the badass that she is, saved a little annoying girl all by her own, Connie gets a Tanjiro moment, Rainer and the group is playing Clash of Clans, Krista finally reveals her real name, which is the word history in Spanish. Rainer and Berthold reveal that they are gay. Okay, sorry, I'll take this part seriously. Rainer and Berthold reveal, one of the most talked about moments in the series, and me being me can't just normally talk about it. Let's nerd out a little bit. Attack on Titan is known for its big reveals and plot twists that leave the audience stunned, rethinking everything from the story's beginning. Of course, a lot of shows do this, and no way is this unique to AOT. But what I personally like about Attack on Titan's reveals is that it doesn't just change the way you look at certain characters or plot lines, but it changes the way you have been seeing the story this entire time. It makes you revisit every judgment you made regarding the story, and you look at the show from a completely new and different angle. There are many tools or techniques that a story can use to make a reveal work, and every story has a different tool that works better for it. But I've never seen a story use a tool and master it the way Attack on Titan mastered this tool, which I like to call the art of distraction. So as I previously mentioned, it is a tool used to make the big reveals of your story work better. Most reveals of AOT are built up. It doesn't happen out of nowhere, which is a slight problem, because you need at least a little bit of that shock element for a plot twist to work properly. What's the point if the viewers already know about the big reveal you are building up to? How is it a quote-unquote big reveal if I already know what it is? Now, what Art of Distraction does to overcome this issue is take A as the reveal and B as the story, which is currently working its way towards A. Now, what the Art of Distraction does is take B and push it towards C, breaking the straight parts towards A. By doing this alongside with the focus of the story, the focus of the audience also shifts to C, which results in the audience not even thinking about the possibility of A. So when the story suddenly reaches A, it surprises the audience even more than it would if the story just directly went to A. Let's take this and apply it to the Berthold and Rainer reveal. This reveal takes place right after the conclusion of a brutal fight with the Titans, which resulted in the corpse barely making it out alive. And this was possible because Yami turned into the Jaw Titan and destroyed the abnormal Titans. This leads to a half rehab episode, and the audience also thinks that we will have at least 3 to 4 non-action episodes. As you can see, the entire focus of the story right now is on the relationship between Ymir and Historia, and of course Ymir becoming the Jaw Titan. But Isayama takes a complete 180 and drops the Berthold and Rainer reveal, which leaves the viewers in complete shock. And this worked because from the start of season 2, the viewers were served information only about the Beast Titan, the Jaw Titan, the fact that there are Titans inside the walls, and no one gave a single damn about the Armored and the Colossal. So the story took your focus away from Rainer and Berthold and shifted it to Ymir and Historia, only to take you back to Rainer and Berthold, but this time the reveal hits harder than ever. What? Don't judge me, I told you I was gonna nerd out. Season 2 did take a political approach to his story, but Season 3 straight up changed AOT into a political thriller about scheming, conspiracies, disputes, controversies in the monarchy, rich people vying for power, and the show named Attack on the fucking Titan is all about killing humans now. I know that the initial popularity the show got was because of the simple to understand plot. Titans are bad and humans are good. It was all black and white. But it was so refreshing to see these characters be put in morally grey situations. There were many times when our main cast themselves doubted their own actions on whether they were actually doing good for humanity. Like how the Levi squad turned from being a sleek titan killing group to a bunch of people who are ready to get their hands dirty with human blood in order to get things done. And the young soldiers training under them were also forced to join them in slaughtering fellow humans because they really didn't have much choice. Join the adults or get killed yourselves. The main reason why so many people still to this day talk and appreciate the shift in tone is because it was so damn natural. It felt like a natural progression of the story than the characters just waking up one day feeling like destroying their own species. None of the characters felt good about what they were doing. None of the characters even wanted to do this in the first place. But that's how it is. That's how this cruel world is. You know how I couldn't shut up about Season 2 and the way it stopped the roller coaster and gave us time to explore and understand these characters? But Season 3 did that alongside putting them in very interesting scenarios that we would have never imagined at the beginning of the show. We all already know how strong and badass Levi is, but what if he's up against the guy who trained and raised him? That will change things, right? In the entire first 2 seasons, we never saw Levi getting cornered like this, so it was so fun to see him actually face some real difficulty against his enemies, which also showed us just how well versed he is in using the ODM gear. By the way, this entire sequence was animated by one guy in a single month. Mad respect, dude. But by far my favorite moments in this season came from the royal family drama. So giving some context here, it turns out that Grisha stole the founding titan from the royal family, so not only did Eren eat his father but also inherited the founding titan with him. However, he can't use this power because he's not of royal blood. But you know who has the royal blood? Historia. That's right, she's the rightful queen and technically deserves the founding titan, and her father wants her to eat Eren so they can finally access the power, which led me to wonder why is she even thinking about this? Just take the injection shot and boom, you're god. But the royal family had this power for decades and they still couldn't use it for any good, which means Historia getting the founder won't really change anything. Basically, this entire situation revolves, I don't know why I just can't say this word, I hate myself, around whether Historia will accept her heritage or reject it. And you know what the queen does. She not only rejects all that, but does it by KOing her father, breaking his spinal cord, punching Eren on his head, asking him for once in his life to stand up on his own, lands the final blow so the public can witness the sheer power and dominance of the new queen, and just to rub it in, smacks Levi right in front of him. Yeah, you fucking dwarf, you are nothing in front of the queen. Yeah, I love this scene. What I love the most about the scene is that, like the rest of the season, once again Isayama presented a difficult choice for a character and you genuinely didn't know what they would choose, especially because what she chose was the harder choice. I mean, she literally sacrificed the power to become god. The season didn't really have any unique style of writing that changed everything, but it was literally just Isayama putting his characters in different scenarios and letting us see how they would react. It added real depth to the action because now the enemy is not just a mindless giant that is supposed to be killed, but a real human who has his own ideologies and way of thinking. You might not agree with him, but is he supposed to be killed just because you think he's wrong? Oh wait, I just described everyday Twitter. And this right here is the reason the season hits hard and sets the tone for the future seasons. It's almost like Isayama hinted that as the story progresses, the clear line between good and evil will keep getting thinner and thinner, and our main cast will not always be in the right side. This season was awesome, man. But the next arc is the conclusion of everything the series has built up so far. The jaw-dropping action of the first, with the emotional depth of the second, the complex stress of the third, and oh boy, it's just fucking awesome. Pretty much the entire second half is the battle to get back Shiganshina, and it is the longest story arc in AOT, only behind the War for Paradise, which we will get into later. We have Eren vs Reiner round 2, but this time thanks to his new hardened knuckles, Eren is able to deal some serious damage, and once the armor is in open, the scouts come and blow him up with their new Thunder Spears, basically handheld missiles. The Beast Titan versus an entire squad with 2 captains, and of course Berthold versus whatever the fuck this is. Irvin and Levi decide there's no way out of this situation, so they will just charge in the beast like suicidal maniacs so Levi can fuck him up. As you would expect, most of the scouts were not into this idea. I mean, who wants to give away their lives like this? But in the end, they do end up killing themselves, and this is where I think Attack on Titan separates itself from other anime. In any other anime, the leader would try to put a positive shine on the dire situation they are in. But AOT takes a very real and grounded approach. None of the characters are just ready to give away their lives. They ask Irvin very human questions that every human would have at a time like this. Wait, if we are gonna die anyways, then why does obeying your orders matter in the first place? Isn't it all meaningless? Irvin, as cold as he can be. You are precisely right. It's all meaningless, no matter what dreams or hopes you had, no matter how blessed a life you have lived. It's all the same if you're shredded by rocks. And it is at this moment that I realized this anime is special. It's not your usual run-of-the-mill battle shonen. Isayama doesn't like to run away from the audience's questions. The outcome here is the same. The scouts do charge into their own deaths, but it's the way AOT goes about it that elevates it from just another show to something, in my opinion, everyone shall experience at least once. And it's not like the outcome is disappointing either. This sequence right here is one of the most breathtaking and edge of the seat stuff I've ever experienced. And I hate how cliche the term edge of the seat has become, because this really is edge of the seat stuff. Irvin's iconic speech coming in live with stunning voice acting by Daisuke Ono and Sawano's over-the-top soundtracks that give you chills of your life, all that encapsulated with 30 seconds of pure hard work and passionate display with this Levi cut. Gosh, I fucking love this. And yes, the same guy from before animated this cut too. Bro's just coded, you can't stop him. This season really is the accumulation of everything good about AOT. You have still got the Sakuga action sequences, the mind-blowing reveals, really difficult character decisions, and consequences to every minute action. Yes, the story will progress and evolve further, but these are the core strengths of AOT, which this season just mastered perfectly. You go into every episode with a mix of excitement, suspense, and fear, because again, you genuinely cannot expect what is going to happen. You watch every action sequence with hype, but at the same time a patch of doubt that is this character going to make it out alive. And this hits especially harder because now you are at a point where you actually care and love these characters. Every event, no matter how large or small it is, has tremendous weight behind it, because in this story nothing happens just for the sake of it. Everything has meaning behind it. Season 3 Part 2 elevates the stakes and brings an emotional weight that has never been reached by the show and is rarely reached by any media. And none of it would be possible without the way this show constantly evolves and builds upon itself. This really is the peak of Attack on Titan, huh? Or that's what I thought so. Season 4 has not only matched what came before it, but shot straight past it to become a series that defines this modern generation of anime. We are so far beyond anything the series was before this season that it's almost unrecognizable. From a hype-inducing generic shonen about humans vs titans to a complex political war thriller that deals with sensitive topics like racism, child abuse, and literal genocide. You remember the grey area I mentioned earlier? Well, this season is all about about that. You have heroes and villains on either side with no clear distinction of who or what you should be rooting for. Before, you didn't know who's gonna make it out alive, but now you don't even know who you want to make it out alive. I mean, there have been series that have changed from their initial plot, but AOT didn't just change a few aspects of the story, but changed the entire fucking genre of the show. And the thing that surprises me the most is that no matter how much the show has changed, it still feels natural. It feels earned. It feels like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to go. And the biggest example of the shift in tone is Eren himself. The final season, Eren is a completely different person to the character we knew. He went from a pesky, annoying, always shouting chump to a battle-hardened war veteran who will do anything to achieve his goals. And I do mean anything, from betraying his comrades who have been with him since the start to slaughtering innocent children. You think of something bad and Eren has probably done it, but for some fucking reason, it just feels right. Again, it feels natural. Throughout the series, we have seen Eren always ending up on the losing side. Yeah, the main objective of the corps is successful, but Eren's personal goals have almost always failed. You have seen his confidence fading away slowly but surely, that by the end of season 3, you could sense that something big has changed inside him. And it's such a treat to see such a bold character change being done right and absolutely pay off. Because if you think about it, Eren has not exactly changed. He's just doing what he used to shout about, and we never took him seriously. So that's it from the final season. Let's move on to the next part. Okay, yeah, I know I cannot keep ignoring the elephant in the room. The goddamn studio change. When an anime as popular as Attack on Titan is gonna go through a studio change in its final season, there were always gonna be people picking apart every minor detail, like music choices, character designs, and of course, the CGI. Look, I know it's not perfect, but it's not bad either. It's actually great, especially when you compare it to the janky CGI we got previously, and the fact that the entire final season part 1 was made in just 8 months. Now, if you don't understand how little time this is to animate 16 episodes, let's go back to the Levi versus Peace Titan sequence. Yeah, that 30-second scene took Wit 4 months to animate, whereas the current AOT team was given 8 months for the full season. Really, the only thing I felt missing from the final season was the jaw-dropping action sequences, and you can easily see this when you compare some scenes to the pre-made trailer we got for season 4, which was fully 2D. It's so much better, and I think this trailer is the main culprit. It set the expectations so high that the actual product left fans underwhelmed. So I do understand why people are disappointed, cause yeah, it is a step down from Wit's work, but to harass and give death threats to the people grinding their ass off without seeing their families for weeks upon weeks, all for a few bucks and a pat on the back, is honestly such a bad look on the Western anime community and just cruel in general. Also, the animation keeps getting better and better in the next parts, which perfectly leads us into the War for Paradise. If season 3 was the payoff to everything AOT built up and season 4 was the evolution of the show, then season 4 part 2 is the payoff to the evolution. Everything from the rumbling to the biggest plot twist in anime. And in this segment of the video, I will focus only on this twist because part 2 is really not much different from part 1. It's literally the same thing getting split up. So let's get into the twist that inherited the art of distraction that I explained earlier to its core. Across time itself, Eren schemed up everything until this point exactly how he wanted it all to go, in one of the most insane plot twists of all time. The Attack Titan reveal. Attack Titan can see the future. We all know that now. But why did no one ever question this Titan's power before it was revealed to us? Because every Titan has a special power, right? But the Attack Titan is just a Titan who can be controlled by a human and eventually learns hardening, which he just copied from the female Titan. Why is that no one ever questioned Attack Titan's power? Again, this is because of the art of distraction. Since the end of season 2, the Attack Titan has been far overshadowed by the founding Titan. In season 3, when the shit gets real, the focus shifts to trying to figure out what the founding Titan even is. Now that we got to know what the Founding Titan is, in season 4 the focus shifts to how Eren can access this power and what will he do with the power. And the story purposefully tells us that the Attack Titan is just a piece of fighting equipment to Eren, and that the Founding Titan is the real power he holds. Now let's go back to the reveal. The cliffhanger on episode 3 left us believing that Zeke tricked Eren into giving him the power of the Founding Titan, allowing Zeke to use the power according to his own will, using the advantage of his royal blood. And then in episode 4, it's a total slow burner until the reveal. This entire episode was leading us to believe that Zeke was in total control of everything going on in the memories. Their discussions about Grisha was just distracting us from the truth that was yet to come. And then we get to the grand scene. Just take a note on how unsettling the setting is here. It's building up to the moment we all know is coming, where Grisha eats the royal family. He says very subtly, as if it's not important, that the Attack Titan's true power is that it can see its future inheritors' memories. And we are thinking, what does that mean? What can Grisha see then? How does this change things? Dozens of thoughts swirl in our heads alongside the anticipation of the brutal murder of the royal family, with the intense music playing in the background and the amazing voice acting by Hiroshi Tsuchida. There's just so much going on, it's almost too overwhelming. And then it stops. Attack on Titan uses silence to make the moment of reveal hit hard. And then the music returns, the terrifying piano theme just slightly hinting at the devilish twist that is to come. Grisha gets on his knees and says, he can't kill children. Wait, that doesn't add up. The panic sets in. The royal family is screaming at Frida to kill him. Zeke asks what's going on and how can the past change right now in front of his own eyes. And then it happens. You realize this isn't some different version of the past that is taking place. This is the one story everyone's been living. This is fact, this is history. One that Eren made happen. We see the true power of the Attack Titan come to life as Eren grabs Grisha's shoulder and tells him exactly what he must do. It's clear that Grisha would never do this if Eren didn't manipulate him. It's horrifically beautiful. The reason Zeke thought Grisha brainwashed Eren was because he was carrying out the will of Eren himself. The line here where Grisha says he killed everyone except the father, and us knowing that Eren needs the father in order to meet his and make contact with the Founding Titan. He doesn't show Grisha all his memories, only what he needs to make sure he follows exactly what he says. It's almost unbelievable. What Grisha could not do, Eren could, to take away their freedom before they take ours. The story often tries telling us that Eren will never submit to anyone, but we never took it seriously. Just as Grisha says, only Eren will get what he wants. The beauty of this insane plot twist is that the plot itself was written by Eren himself. I plan to make a separate video for the final chapters, cause if MAPPA can split their content into a million parts, then why can't I? But I eventually decided to wait until the final episode drops. If I had one word to summarize this episode, it would be beautiful. And I don't mean your average beautiful, but the textbook definition of beautiful, both figuratively and literally. Cause yes, the themes and moments this episode brought to us were beautiful, but the animation was just fucking beautiful. Okay, I swear to God, this is the last time I say that word. The AOT team did not disappoint. Everything from the Hanji ODM sequence to the final climax. They legit went, we can do this shit too, just give us more time. And that they got. This episode just proves how much a better schedule can improve the animation quality. Also, the direction of the final season is so, prepossessing. Hayashi's direction really just slow fucks me against the wall and offers me fine wine after that. I love how everything takes a cinematic approach that perfectly fits the season's vibe. Okay, enough about the animation. I know this is an AOT video, not licking Hayashi's ass for 30 minutes straight. The beginning of this episode gives us 12 minutes of horrifying and tragic visuals. Men, women, children, everyone getting trampled by the same guy whom we connected and sympathized with. Everything is so unfortunate, yet the way it's presented to us is eerily beautiful. Eren does have a very villainous justifications for his actions, but yeah, Isayama makes it clear that it is villainous. At the start, we almost sympathize with Eren, as it seems like he didn't really have a choice. He just did what he must do. He says that it is already determined that he will and must do this. He gives the impression that he doesn't actually want to do this, but that he is forced. He moves forward not with his knowledge of the future, but because of it. This internal monologue is the exact opposite of the Eren we left off with in the last season. I mean, his last lines before this episode were, "I will wipe out every last one of them." Eren comes across this kid getting beaten to death and naturally thinks of saving him. But who is he to save this kid's life? It's like performing a cruel act of kindness just to prolong the inevitable death. Who the fuck is he to act kind? We as the viewers are kept in back and forth, present to future, or past to present, as Eren cries in guilt holding the young kid he saved, as the future demanded he would do. We see Eren apologizing and simultaneously witness him brutally murdering the same kid. Eren fears who he would become, but cannot help but do it. At this moment, I think all of us sympathize with Eren, but then almost immediately, Isayama reminded us of what Eren truly is, what Eren actually believes. Eren wanted this. Eren wanted to wipe out everything outside the walls. Eren's own justification is complete bullshit. The reality of the world outside the walls was different from the world I dreamed of. When I learned humanity was alive outside the walls, I was disappointed. In an instant, we remember that this is still the path Eren chose. He is sorry, but that will not stop the demise of innocent children. What began as a sympathetic and twisted justification dissolves in the harsh reality of it all. The destruction, the massacre, the genocide. Eren wanted all of this. Besides all of this, the entire episode was just a piece of art. Especially Hanji's death really played with my heartstrings. I cried like a little just born baby. This was the first major death after Erwin, and oh boy was it tragic. Everything about the sequence was sad. Hanji's story started with admiring Titans and ended with admiring Titans. She always had an uplifting and charming personality, and she lived up to that till the very end. Levi, for the first time ever, telling someone to Shinzuo Sasageo, and she just goes off with a bang. Everything about this ODM sequence was hype and sorrow at the same time. Even the music hits hard but has a hint of emptiness. The sheer amount of contrasting emotions you have at this moment is genius writing, and of course the anime elevates it a lot. The final chapter, special one, ends with this big climax, and now we enter the end. Finally, after a decade of serialization, Attack on Titan comes to a conclusion. And honestly, I'm not going to quote-unquote review this episode because I too just watched it and I'm still not able to completely comprehend what I just witnessed. So I will spend the final 4 to 5 minutes of this video just sharing how I felt watching AOT close its curtains one last time. I don't know why, but this entire episode felt really empty to me. Not in a negative way, but everything about it made me feel nothing. Even before the episode was released, I was not hyped or worried at all. I was at this weird state where I absolutely felt nothing. No emotions. And this started around 3 hours before the episode was supposed to be released. It's like a very significant part of my life is going away, even though I caught up to AOT just 3 years ago. Even while watching the special, I didn't get hyped up for any action sequence or shredded even a single tear as the credits rolled out. I myself expected to be drenched in tears as it all ends, but I too was surprised. I thought AOT was so important to me that I wouldn't recover for days after it ends. But at the time at least, it felt like any other anime ending. It was not until I finished all my tasks and was about to end my day with a good night's sleep that all those emotions just burst out of me. I started tearing up, and in a minute I was drenched in tears. My heart started feeling heavy and I just kept crying that whole night. I rewatched the episode and this time I was weeping the entire time. I don't know about you, but I loved the ending. I think it perfectly tied all the loose corners and left me satisfied. The message is clear. Titans were never the problem and humans are to be blamed. Even though the Titans have gone, the hatred within us will never stop this cycle of conflicts, and there will be one psycho who will do it all again. AOT would never have a perfect ending that everyone unanimously loves, because when a story gets so popular, there are always gonna be people who won't be satisfied. This really is the only possible way AOT could have ended, and I don't have a problem with it. So now I hope you understand why I took 45 minutes of your time to go into every season and explain what each has done, because where we are at now would not be possible without the collective world building of every season. And now that we are at the end, looking back at the beginning, there are a lot of elements that I wasn't too happy with, but now I am glad they exist, because the way the story has evolved has resulted in a far more interesting world with a deeper history than I ever thought it was going to be, while still sticking to the same themes presented in the first episode. Every big reveal changed the way you have been looking at the show, and now after the end has been unpacked, once again the story has evolved and changed into something completely new. Yes, the story is so rich that its ending is also its evolution at the same time, because it's a story that has been able to realize its full potential and deliver on it. It's not just a short, hard-hitting story that said its piece and ended, but a full epic that we have gone on this long ride with and has been able to hit its final form without any compromise. And through me realizing this, I have just come to appreciate how rare of a phenomena this show has become. Attack on Titan is the mainstream show that deserves the hype it got. New anime fans are gonna be calling this their favorite anime of all time, and veteran weebs will probably be saying the same. Witnessing the reception of this final episode was kinda surreal to me, because yes, we have had singular anime episodes before that has surpassed our little circle of anime and went mainstream, but it's the first time that an anime has ended and seemingly everyone talked about it. You watch anime, you were watching Attack on Titan. You don't watch anime and you were probably watching it as well. I was ready for Attack on Titan's ending to be big, but I was thoroughly unprepared for how big it actually got. Watching this final episode felt like I was part of something big. There are moments in media that have left their mark on the audience forever. It wasn't just a piece of fiction being released, it was an entire event. And this kind of was that moment for us anime fans. It's not just another great show that will fade away in past and move on after it's over, but something that will be imprinted with gold in the history of media for years or even decades to come. That is Attack on Titan. We have not just watched another great show coming to an end. We have witnessed the show go down in history that defined the modern generation of anime. Look, I know that the ending was not perfect and some of it is Isayama's own fault, but I don't care what you think about the ending. You just can't regard him as a bad or incompetent author by any means. This road to becoming a mangaka is not an easy one. The process of manga making is infamous for how taxing it is on the author, both physically and mentally. Okay, even if you disregard the hardships these mangakas go through, you have to look at what creating a monthly manga like Attack on Titan means. Unlike a normal author, Isayama doesn't have the liberty to finish his entire story and release it to the audience after thoroughly thinking about every single aspect, because he released his story in chapters for 11 years, every single month without any break. He attributed more than 11 years of his life solely to write the story. What this means is that after he's done with one chapter, his work is released to the audience's critiques and opinions. He sees what they say, how they feel about it, and he still must continue writing afterwards. Writing a manga is not a one-time work at all. It's a slow process that happens every month or week for years, and that builds tremendous pressure. Don't you think Isayama wanted to take back at any point? Don't you think at any point he was like, that chapter could have been better? But once the chapter is released, there is no going back. You keep moving forward. Even if he did have a solid ending in his mind, who's to say the publishing company won't demand him to change it, or that fans' opinions of a chapter won't affect the direction of the next one? It's impossible to have a concrete set ending in the medium of manga, because even if you do, you still don't know how many storylines you have to tie up through that ending. And that's the sad reality of this beautiful but at the same time kind of fucked up medium. Attack on Titan ended the way it did, and Isayama had the chance to revisit and rewrite things in the final episode. But he didn't, because this is the ending. For a moment, I think we need to have a broader perspective, and instead of imposing our own expectations and ideas on the final chapter of this beautiful story, just try to take a step back and acknowledge it for what it is. Because really, most complaints about this ending is not about what it is, but about what it should have been. It's similar to the themes presented in Attack on Titan itself. Not everything will have a happy ending, and most of the times you have no control over it. So rather than bitching about it, just accept it for what it is and move on with life. Because if you have managed to sit through this video till this point, then Attack on Titan most definitely had an impact on your life. And really, most of us would not be who we are without Attack on Titan. Is it for the good or bad? We don't know. Only time can answer that. So for now, just enjoy the moment. Just cherish the end of this incredible saga. It was not perfect, but you brought something truly wonderful in this world. Thank you, Hajime Isayama.